All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Adam Berezin from MSDW, and I'd like to welcome you all to today's session covering Microsoft Dynamics 365 Customer Insights, presented by Caroline Faraday and Tyler McLean of Coffee and Done. So before we get started, I just want to mention a couple of things. If you have any questions during the session, please feel free to type them into the chat box, and Caroline or Tyler will get back to you via email after the session ends. We're also recording the session, and we should have the video up on MSDW probably within the next day or two. So Caroline, without further delay, I am going to turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to our Permission Impossible Demystifying Security for Dynamics 365 Customer Insights. Everyone, I would say, knows how security settings in Dynamics 365 can feel like a little bit of a black box. 1 minute, everything is working as it should, and the next thing, you're either locked out or one of your users is locked out, or you realize you're exposing too much. So in this session, what we are hoping to do is break that all down for you guys in plain English. So whether you are just starting out with your security journey or you're trying to clean up that permission chaos, we have got you covered. If we can go into introductions. Again, here are your speakers. I'll go first. My name is Caroline Faraday. I'm a consulting manager here at Coffee and Done. I've been with the team since 2018. And what I do is I help lead customer insights implementation. So not only helping clients get the most out of their platforms, but trying to do so without the security headache. And I will pass it over to Tyler.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tyler McLean. I'm a senior solution consultant here at Coffee and Done. I've been with the company for just about 4 years. I have a decade of experience working in marketing and marketing automation prior to moving over to the technology side, where I support projects that Caroline is managing and helping with the implementation, development, and execution of those projects, all the way from discovery through launch and customer training and education post-launch. So today, for our agenda, these are the different areas that we're going to be walking through. We've sort of broken everything apart into these different sections, and we'll dive into topics within each of these sections, starting with sort of like, why does security matter whenever it comes to D365 customer insights, all the way through finishing up with some testing procedures and talking specifically about customer insights data, security roles, and what that sister product to customer insights journeys offers for security.
Okay, so now let's get into it, the security basics and beyond. So just reviewing this little snapshot here of why we need a security plan and why it really matters. Let's really get into it. So at its core, I would say the first one is restricting data and the visibility. Security controls who sees what. So ensuring that you have sensitive customer information and making sure that it isn't exposed or access isn't granted to those that shouldn't have it, I would say is really at its core. So you should be restricting the data access and visibility, and security allows you to do that. Next is it allows you to prevent unwanted behavior. So whether it's an accidental change to an email template or a user is accessing or has access to an area of the tool that they shouldn't, we have all been there, and security really provides those guardrails that keep the operations running smoothly. As one of our clients put it, our users will go rogue. And so we need to make sure that we have the security to enforce what we do and don't want them to do. So really allowing that and preventing that unwanted behavior is just another key thing that we're always looking at. It also protects your data. So data, it's one of an organization's most valuable assets. And if it's lost or it's stolen, it really can impact your organization quite significantly. So think of security as kind of that vault door that is safeguarding your most prized possession, your data, and your system. It also enables governance. So and compliance. Compliance isn't just an optional thing today. It is needed, and you need to ensure that your data has compliance and governance around it to ensure that you are not opening your organization or your team up for risk. And then lastly, it also just supports your unique teams or user-driven behavior. So security, I would say the security model with Microsoft is quite flexible in that it allows you to be restrictive or permissive based off of what a team's need is. And there is quite a bit of security that you can be flexible with when you're thinking about your approach and your strategy. So we're going to be diving into all of that today, but this just gives you kind of encompasses why we are talking about it and why you should be really looking and thinking about why security matters, not just in customer insights, but also customer insights data. Okay, so now let's get into some of the Microsoft provided security features. I love this Shrek GIF that says ogres are like onions, because I do believe that Microsoft is very similar in that Microsoft security also has a lot of layers, in that we are constantly peeling back those layers and seeing how they should be applied to the system. So now let's get into the first one, which is Customer Insights Journeys Security Roles. So when you first install the marketing platform, you have a few out-of-box security roles that are given to you. These are, I would say, encompass the roles of a everyday marketer or a system admin, and they are great as a starting and a reference point. These roles, I would say, are in a managed state, meaning that you cannot edit them, which is just worth noting because I would say these roles specifically that Microsoft provides are quite permissive in the realm of the sales tables, giving access to the contacts and leads. It gives a lot of delete privileges that we are not comfortable with. So we say use this as a starting point, and then create those custom security roles, utilizing the out-of-box roles, or use them as kind of looking back or a snapshot. The next one that we'll cover is the modern security role designer. So Microsoft has been making quite a few updates to the make.powerapps.com portal in the admin center. One of the new areas that I would say it's a slam dunk for the updates that they made, is the modern security role designer. Because it not only allows you to quickly make adjustments to your security roles, but just the view alone, it gives you a compact view of your roles. You can filter based off of only wanting to see the assigned privileges related to a role, all of the tables, and you can filter and search. It gives you kind of a lookup view. One of the biggest things in a difference to the classic view is it also gives you the schema name, which comes in quite handy when related to customer insights implementations when we're creating roles, because a lot of the tables have the same display name but have a different schema name. So having the schema name available to you is great. The next Microsoft provided security feature that you need to be aware of are feature switches. So whenever a release happens or when you're installing the Customer Insights application, there are feature switches that have security behind them as well that you should be aware of. These are within the settings area, work area of the marketing application, and it allows you not only to restrict or give access to specific areas, but it also allows you, if your organization doesn't want to have specific functionality that it can be used in the marketing application, this allows you to kind of restrict those areas by utilizing these toggles. The next one that I will get into are designer feature protection records. So similar to, again, saying that Customer Insights security has layers, this is another layer that you can enable for your users related to HTML editing and litmus integration. So specific areas that utilize this feature area is emails and forms. So if you do not want your users to have access to HTML editing for like your templates or in the emails area or the forms area, then you can actually lock this down by a specific user or a specific team to ensure that no one is touching an area of an asset that they shouldn't have access to. So this just kind of allows you to do that. And application users. One of the biggest, I would say, gotchas for us are application users. Customer Insights Journey specifically utilizes a lot of application users when they're running its services related to journeys, emails, and segments, and even triggers. And so there are quite a few application users that Microsoft utilizes. We call them little worker bees for Microsoft. And if they do not have the correct privileges to, say, some of the custom tables that you're utilizing, either for segmentation, journeys, personalization, and emails, it will actually break the system so you cannot use those tables and break some of the functionality that you are trying to with regard, I would say, for example, journeys. So it's always good to keep aware of those application users. There is a marketing services user extensible role that all of the application users have. And so if you are ever needing to provide additional privileges, I would say always do the path of least privilege. Giving them red access should do the trick. But just making sure that you know what those application users are and then what role you should be applying those custom tables privileges to, I would say is another just thing to be aware of when you're thinking about your security approach and managing security. And the last two are to Tyler.
And then lastly, sort of like taking the next step, we have access and owner teams. So access and owner teams have different functionality within the Power Platform, specifically related to customer insights journeys. This is how you can grant those out-of-the-box roles or potentially custom security roles in a manageable way. And you can tie those access teams to Entra groups and security teams so that as people are onboarded to your organization, you can actually automatically assign access, environment access, as well as security role based on AD groups. So the two components between the Teams functionality within D365 Customer Insights Journeys and the Entra AD groups and security functionality, those combined together really allow you to create an easy way to manage who has access to what environment and the security roles that they are assigned. And, you know, all of this can be automated with whatever onboarding platform that you're leveraging.
So now let's get into our next topic. So hopefully everyone remembers Clippy. Sometimes a little too eager, but always just ready to help. Today, we are channeling that same helpful spirit and energy as we walk through our model-driven app release checklist. It's the process we use to make sure every app release that Customer Insights it pushes goes smoothly without, again, those security headaches or without any impacts to our users. So now if we can get into our first one, it's always first and foremost when we are thinking of our checklist is always check for updates. Since the Customer Insights applications, I would say, is constantly evolving, they're always pushing out new areas of the tool or making, I would just say, a lot of improvements, whether it's bug fixes, enhancements from Microsoft, etc. We make it a habit to regularly check the admin center or within the app settings that is being shown right here. This really helps us stay on top of just spotting when an update has occurred to make sure that we are planning for that change, to make sure that we are not going to, again, have any update or impact with these updates. The next thing that we look at is the what's new in Customer Insights Journeys. This is a link that I can probably bet everyone on the Coffee and Done team has it bookmarked. We look at this almost every day, if not every other day. It's important for our users, especially just like admins and power users, to regularly review this because it is where Microsoft is documenting and rolling out the updates. So again, we can check what is coming down the pike, or if there were any bug fixes, we can say like, oh, we need to go and test that or check it. The next thing we do before we actually push a release is we take a snapshot of the security roles before we do any updates. One of the tools that we really like is within the XRM toolbox. It's called the Role Documenter. This really allows you to get a good Excel export of your role before, and we do that for out-of-box roles and the custom security roles that we create for clients and ourselves. Because once an update gets pushed, it allows us to quickly see if there were any changes to those security roles that we need to go and make to our custom roles. Because when an update gets pushed out, the update does not also get applied to our custom security roles. So we're always checking for that and being aware of that before we actually push an app release to one of the lower environments. Okay, and then the next one is create a testing plan, update, check, and feature switches, and then make sure to test. So we always like to have a testing plan of what are we going to test, whether it was custom configuration, an area of the tool that is now new that we're wanting to test out in a lower environment. So making sure that you have a test plan in place before you actually apply a release just makes things, I would say, streamline and to run smoothly. We use a lot of user acceptance test plans that we had used during the configuration of our implementations. We use those quite a bit, and we repurpose them for just our app release updates as well. And then before we actually execute and push an update, we also take a snapshot of the feature switches area that I reviewed a few slides ago. The reason we do that is because the feature switches only show up after a update gets applied. So we like to see what was before and then what happens after the release gets pushed out to make sure that there were not any toggles that we were not aware of that popped up, or so that if once an update gets pushed out, we can see what needs to get toggled on in those lower environments. So feature switches is a great area. And then lastly, just going and testing, making sure that all of the functionality is still working as is if there is configuration within your system to ensure that there is not any debugging that you need to do in relation to the security model. So those security roles, making sure users have the same functionality and same access that they had before an update occurred. And then also just testing out the new functionality before it GAs and gets released to your production environment.
So next we're going to switch to what are some of our you might think we've been sharing all of our tips and tricks already, but really we're going to dive into some of our key insights that we have documented for our work with our clients, just as our work as internal customer insights journeys development implementers and trainers.
Okay. The first one related to customer insights are related table nuances. So unlike applications like sales, where it's often pretty clear cut on how tables relate and how they are connected and what level of access a user needs, customer insights is a little bit different. The marketing application relies what we call heavily on auxiliary tables. These are background tables that support the specific features or are related to background processes. And the tables are not always obvious, or I would say well documented either, on how they are connected and what the level of access a user should have. A very, I would say, prime example are triggers. You would think if you're utilizing triggers within customer insights that you would only need access to the trigger table. Well, in fact, you actually need access to another 5 tables that span the name of marketing feature configuration and marketing event catalog. And so those are not, I would say, clear cut or obvious to a specific user or even an admin that says, I need to give users access to this specific privilege as well. That's why using those out-of-the-box security roles, I would say, are key into ensuring that a user is not going to get a specific error when they're trying to access part of the system. So just being aware of those related table nuances, I would say, not only help you build your security roles appropriately, but also when you're debugging, you kind of have that insight to say, okay, maybe I should be looking at other tables to see if a user needs to be given additional privileges. So that's a big one.
Thinking about your security model approach, as Caroline mentioned earlier, Microsoft provides options that are out of the box, but sometimes that might not fit your business use case, such as like having delete access, having create access for standardized assets, such as like email form and journey templates. You might want to have those managed. You might want to have your tags managed that you have available to you. Maybe only certain people should be allowed to create journeys and publish them. So knowing this, it's really important to sort of make a decision on, how are you going to create your security roles? Are you going to have sort of that base role and then 3 versions of that base role? Or are you going to take a sort of layered security approach? And this is the one that we find to be the most beneficial, is that in the layered security approach, you're only granting privileges for the specific CRUD that are provided for a table at each layer. So like if your base role only needs read access, then read access is granted at the base role. But if your sort of creator role needs create and edit privileges, those privileges would be applied in the creator role, and the read privilege is not there because that role would inherit it from the lower role. And this goes back into sort of that security group, security teams, and Azure, Entra AD groups where you can have multiple security roles assigned through a team at the same time. So that's how that layered approach. And then, like Caroline mentioned, whenever you are let's say there's an update that comes out and you see, oh, our creators need access to this new table because of an enhancement of forms, you can just go to that creator layer and add that versus having to add it at 3 different, potentially 3 or 4 different roles. You only have to tweak the role that the new security applies to specifically. So it allows for, and we know that with custom security roles, there's a lot of technical debt that you're assuming. So this really makes the approach to security roles less of a burden from a technical debt perspective.
Now let's get into column level security. So in relation to column level security and how the marketing applications of Customer Insights Journey utilizes it, I would say Microsoft has it pretty locked down when it comes to columns in the marketing module that have column level security applied to them. But they do offer, I would say, some flexibility in specific areas. So for example, when it comes to utilizing columns that have column level security applied to them in relation to segments in emails. So for emails personalization, there is a feature switch that can give access and that control to users. And it's not on a per user basis. It's kind of all for one and one for all. So if you toggle that on, it will be on for everybody where they can utilize those columns within the system. And so that's just something to be aware of. And then the other 2 areas that I would say where column level security can be applied, but is not as straightforward, is related to journeys and triggers. There's not a feature switch today to kind of enable the use of those columns. So if you're wanting to use columns that have column level security applied to them in your journeys for branching, for example, you would need to open up a Microsoft ticket. Same for triggers. If you're wanting to use those columns for a Dataverse trigger or otherwise, you would need to open up a Microsoft support ticket. It is pretty well documented with their process, but it requires them to do some things on the back end to enable and unlock those for you with journeys and triggers. So that's just something to be aware of.
And then sort of looking at like business unit scoping, which when we're often talking to clients, they have seen this and they have questions about it. And I would say that Dynamics 365 offers business units, and data can be put into those business units, and you have some level of security between how that data is shared between the business units. But whenever you enable business unit scoping within the marketing product, it is a very tightly scoped experience. Essentially, all of the contacts and or leads that are going to be communicated to have to live in the exact same business unit that the marketers have access to. So those leads and contacts have to be, if you're communicating to both leads and contacts, they have to be owned by that same business unit. The emails, the journeys, the segments, the image assets, everything has to be owned by a user in that business unit. And users in other, if there were marketers in other business units, they can't see or have access or use records from different business units. So it's really important to understand the
impact. Yeah.
Impact is a great word. Thank you, Caroline. The impact that this turning on this feature can have. And I don't think we've mentioned this yet, but some feature switches are on and never off again. It's, yes. It's permanently on. And this is one of those feature switches that if you toggle it on, it is permanent. So it's really important to dive in and understand, do you just need business units within Dynamics 365, or do you need to actually scoped at the marketing level? And this comes into play with also non-marketing users. So for sales colleagues or colleagues outside of the marketing area of the application, outside of the marketing security roles, the native roles that Microsoft provides for other features and products do not have a lot of the configuration to see consent on the contact record, to see real-time customer insights journeys, engagement activity, those insights metrics on the Insights tab, to see the insights in the Insights information outside of the timeline. So it's really important to understand what Microsoft gives natively to the non-marketing security roles and what it doesn't. And that's something that we have brought to many of our customers since, starting to leverage real-time journeys. And then lastly is model-driven app configuration. So if you've got, like we said earlier, different user security groups, you've got your consumer role, which is really read access. You might have a creator light that has the ability to do most things, but maybe not publish journeys. And then you got your creator that has more access in your admins. Based on the privileges on all of the tables, you can show and hide elements of the site navigation. And we find this really helpful for user experience design. A lot of our clients really like this because if a user doesn't need to see the forms area of the application, we can hide that from them based on their security, the security privileges they have on the forms table or any other table. It doesn't have to be the same. The privilege doesn't have to be for the same table that you're making adjustments around. Some of the items within the settings area, they are controls, and those controls don't have security groups. So you have to pick another, those controls don't have tables. So you have to pick another table that the user that should see this and shouldn't see this already has a specific set of cred for. So this is really one of our favorite things when it comes to really ensuring that the site navigation only displays whatever the actual user needs to execute their role within customer insights journey marketing experience. So transitioning away from some of our insights to our suggested testing procedures. We hope that you're open to suggestions. don't have to take us up on all of them, but we think these are really great ideas, and from our learning and our experience that you might be able to apply to sort of level up your approach to testing.
The first one, which is one of our favorites, is utilizing Level Up for Dynamics 365 Power Apps. So when you are testing out any updates to your security roles, we definitely recommend using not only a test user, if you have a test user available that has those security roles applied to them. But we also love this. It's an extension that you can add to your browser because it allows you to just quickly test and using the impersonate functionality, because again, it allows you to quickly test and it allows you to see the application really as a user would. So if you need to, again, if you're testing for a specific security role, or if you've already pushed out the update and a user is experiencing an issue or getting an error, it just allows you to quickly debug what they are seeing or the action that they're taking where they're getting an error, versus having to set up a call with them. You can kind of see it through their lens using this impersonate functionality.
The next thing is the console app is your best friend. So within your browser, you might be familiar with the inspect option. That opens up sort of like the developer tools, and one of those tools is the console app. Whenever we are debugging security problems, primarily, or if we're having some kind of issue where like the UI isn't behaving as expected, we go to the console app and we get it set up, and then we run the experience and we see the output from it. And it often helps us determine like, what do we need to adjust from a security perspective or from how the development's been done to get the desired results for the work for the customizations that we're making. This is often one of the things. And if you're familiar with working with support, this is one of the things that support often has to bring up whenever you're on the call with them.
The next one is XRM Toolbox. So XRM Toolbox is one of those tools that I feel like, especially Tyler and myself, we cannot live without. Well, we use it for all kinds of scenarios, and there are a lot of tools that we have added. I would say the role documenter is probably the top one that we use, I would say, the most often. In particular, especially it comes in clutch when we are troubleshooting security issues. So again, if we're seeing unexpected access or trying to track down who has an over permissive use case where somebody has access to a table that they really shouldn't, the role documenter, I would say, is great because it not only gives you that export that we were talking about earlier, where it gives you all of the privileges, I would say, in a good view that you can use for, I would say, just organization management. But also it allows you to filter based off of a specific table, and it will spit out every security role that has any level of access to that table. So again, if you're trying to debug and need to do so quickly, the role documenter is going to be your best friend. And if all else fails when you are doing your testing and you're running into issues, I would say AI chat or phone a friend are other options. Obviously, when you are thinking of anything of AI, it's based off of the information it has accessible to them. And we know, I would say, often with Microsoft documentation, just because at the rapid pace that it is evolving, some of that documentation is out of date, meaning that if you're asking the chat a question, it's going to give you that outdated information. So I would say, definitely, use it to your advantage, but I would say also just be sure to check it and make sure that it's giving you accurate information. If you, I would say another area that we like to go to is the Dynamics community. Usually if we haven't seen an issue or we're trying to debug something, the Dynamics community, I would say, is a great resource for you to utilize to see if anyone else has had that issue or if there was resolution. And then if that does not work for you, you can always phone a friend, that friend being Coffee and Done. We will definitely look in and try to help you if you ever need it. We're always happy to help. Okay, So a lot of what we just reviewed related to security was related to customer insights journeys and just I would say, some of the sales tables and that level of access. Now let's get into customer insights data, because again, we are talking all about nuances today. There are quite a few nuances in relation to customer insights data as well and how it applies security. So I'll hand it over to Tyler.
CI data differs from CIJ, where it provides 4 standard roles that do not allow configuration. The first role is the viewer. This basically allows you to view a limited set of pages of information. That's kind of how sort of information is stored within CI data, and not really perform any administrative actions. The next is the marketing contributor. And this role was created specifically out of feedback as CI data has evolved. And we're hoping that this role continues to evolve as Microsoft makes improvements to the product. Really allows users to view and manage the unified data set, create measures, segments, and export only for customer profiles within their business unit. So there is business unit scoping within CI data as well, based on the Dynamics business units, very different from the scoping functionality that we talked about in CIJ. Contributor basically gives you access to do everything except for manage the connections and permissions that are set up. And then admin gives you the ability to view and manage all aspects of the instance and the sort of environment, except for reset or delete. Those are owned by the instance environment creator. So whoever spins up the CI data instance, that person is the only person that has the ability to reset the instance or delete the instance. A contributor, an admin, will not have those 2 privileges. They'll be able to do everything else, but those 2 things. So if those differ, which typically they do, it's just important to understand that while there are only 4 roles, there's sort of this kind of 5th ancillary functionality that only the creator / owner of the instance has access to.
Now let's get into, I would say, the key differences in customer insights data and the security applied to it. The first one is the role as restrict access to view certain pages and perform certain tasks within the customer insights environment. So that's just something to be aware of. Number 2 is individuals and groups can be assigned only one of these roles per environment. So it's not like you can be kind of that layered approach that we were talking about earlier, where you can put multiple roles. You only get one, and that is your role within the CID environment. So again, just something to be aware of in that nuance compared to other platforms and how security is applied. The third one is these roles do not translate or provide any additional privilege or access outside of customer insights data. So for example, to ingest data, if you need other privileges outside of customer insights data, you need to have security roles applied on those platforms as well. You're not getting any additional privileges. And then 4, customer insights data only has 4 security roles outside of the environment owner. And Tyler just reviewed those in the slide before. You do not have the ability to create any additional roles that you may need. So that's, again, just something to be aware of as you're thinking about your security approach, and that kind of just how you're modeling security for customer insights data. Definitely something to be aware of.
Like I said, treat the admin role like a system admin role. Essentially, outside of the environment owner, the system admin, the admin role allows you to do everything else. So that's really important to understand. Whoever has this role can do everything except for reset or delete the environment. They can grant permissions. They can connect and ingest data. They can do the unification process else that we talked about at the marketing contributor level, and the viewer level really just has view access. The other thing here is the use of business units is optional, but when it is supported, it does support multiple business units. And like we said, the marketing contributor role is restricted to working only within customer profile data that's within their own business unit. So whatever business unit that that marketing contributor is in, that is the only set of data they would see. It's kind of similar to CIJ business unit scoping, where the marketer or the business unit they're in, when that is applied on CIJ, you can only use data for the business unit you're in. Here, it's not only is it you can only use that data, you can only see that data. And 3 is contributors are your go-to for most advanced tasks. So that marketing contributor role is really where a majority of your users will probably live in CI data, unless they're purely just someone that needs to see things. But those people that need to build segments and then use those segments to execute journeys in CIJ, they will need that contributor level access so that they can really execute their role and build those segments, build those measures so they can properly create those audiences to send out your communications.
Okay. So thank you everyone for listening to all of the information we had to give with security as it relates to customer insights. We did want to leave you with some helpful resources that we have available. So be sure to check out not only our Coffee and Done blog, where we share insights just across the Dynamics 365 suite, but we also have available other tools like our Knowledge Hub. This is a great resource that provides not only training material, but thought leadership. You can get, you have access to one-on-one consultations with our Coffee and Done expert. So definitely look at that as well if you're needing any additional resources.
Yeah, so thank everyone for your time today. We hope you found this informational. And like Adam said at the beginning, if you have any questions, please submit them and we'll follow up with you over email.
Awesome. Thanks all.
Bye, everyone.